Good morning, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings, everybody. Hope you're having a great Tuesday morning. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. And man, we got to chop it up. It's going down in the town. You know what I'm saying? It's going down in the town right about now. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you may have heard that the Trump administration has made some moves in Washington, D.C. And as the title says, President Trump sends National Guard into Washington, D.C. And this was a build-up, man. When you think about Washington, D.C., it's the nation's capital. Where all the legislators and the congressmen and congresswomen, draft laws and make decisions that affect all of us as American citizens. So you would think that the nation capital, just like if you went to any other nation, the capital of that nation should reflect that government. It should reflect, like Washington, D.C. should reflect the best of American society. But if you step down the street, right out down the street from Washington, from the White House, hey man, it's like a trap house down the street. I mean, you got homeless people camped out. It's very violent. It's very just a lot going on. You got kids running around, robbing people. Even congressmen and women have been unalived in Washington, D.C. Most recently, a former member of Doge, a young man, was beat up pretty bad by a group of 14, 15, 16-year-olds, man, that was trying to rob a lady, and he intervened, and they could have killed that young man. He only 19 years old. So, President Trump came out and been speaking on Washington, D.C. getting their act together, which Washington, D.C. is a blue state. And man, to no avail, it just continued to get worse. And before we get into the commentary, I want to go ahead and share this as always. Before we get knee deep, under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, so we can go ahead and drop that down. But yeah, man, when we get into the commentary, Trump put it out there. You know what I'm saying? He told Washington, D.C., the leadership, the mayor and the governors of that state and city, hey, man, y'all need to get this under control or I'm going to have to federalize your city and your state. So without further ado, let's take a flashback. Now, this was from 5 days ago when he gave them in Washington, D.C. a heads up, because that's crazy, man. You got people over here, down the street from the White House committing heinous crimes against even, members of Congress. Now, at what point do you think these people, are going to you touching some of them people? And then you got, the temperature in America right now. Let's talk about it. Hold on, before I press play on this. The temperature in America right now is red hot. And it's like they trying to start racial tensions. You got the whole situation that happened in Cincinnati, Ohio, where you had a mob of black people jump on 2 white people, right? Now, for whatever reason, you know, somebody, a grown man, cocked all the way back to the kitchen sink and knocked out a white lady. You know, you got the whole situation with Carmelo Anthony stabbing up Austin Metcalf on some, and they racialize in this situation. So racial tensions is like, it's like at a boiling point right now. At any point, you know, you seeing all this stuff, right? And as the president of the United States, he like, wait a minute, man, I got to do something about this. And then you had this stuff going on in DC where congressmen are being attacked and brutalized. At some point, when you cutting up like this, yeah, you forcing the government hand. And people are trying to rationalize the obvious wrong in this. Like, regardless of who black, who white, is wrong and right. Ain't no reason for no man to go ahead and knock out that lady like that. She fell, hit her head, had a concussion. They jumped the boy from Doge. He had a concussion. Like, they almost beating people to death. So what do you expect? You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, let's get to it, man.
News 4 at 6 begins with breaking news.
And that breaking news, President Trump has just renewed his threat to take over the district. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into News 4 at 6. I'm Jim Hantley.
And I'm An Yang. We're reaching out to all of our sources and digging for more information. But all this began about 90 minutes ago with a lengthy social media post. It reads in part, crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. Local youths and gang members, some only 14, 15, and 16 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens at the same time knowing that they will be almost immediately released.
He continues, the law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs, end quote.
The president adds, if D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run this city how it should be run and put criminals on notice that they're not going to get away with it anymore.
His message concludes, if this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize this city. Make America great again. Soon after posting the message, the president had this to say at the White House.
By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be.
Now, here you go right here. Now, a lot was said right there, right? A lot was said right there. Number one takeaway for me is this. The ages of these, you know, people that are committing these crimes from 14 years old as young as, 14, 15, 16 years old. Where are the parents? People out here, you 14 years old running around and trying to jack Congress people in Washington, D.C. Then they saying, they know that they're going to get away with this because they're minors. So we going to then start charging these minors as adults. That might stop, what's going on. Because if these kids know that they can get away with just whatever, then they going to continue to do that. You're going to have the older big homies sending these kids off to do what they doing because they know they going to slap them on the wrist for almost unaliving somebody. So they dispatch these little 14-year-olds to do these heinous crimes because they know they're not going to be held accountable. So at some point, something got to change. Hell, I don't know, start charging their parents. Something got to change. Something got to give, because a certain age don't mean you have a license to unalive people or to harm people or victimize people that just walking down the street minding their business. Now, you heard them say a member of Doge was brutally beaten by some local thugs. Now, that's insane, bro. And people are trying to understand why he's doing this. He warned DC, and then this happened. Like, you already had two Democrat Congress members that were unalived in Washington, D.C. It's at a breaking point, and people want to talk about the statistics. Tell the statistics to somebody like this Doge member. Like, oh, well, crime is down. Well, I can't tell. Try to explain that to some of the victims of these people that lost their loved ones about a statistic. When we live in, we see what's going on, and something has to be done about it. But needless be that here or there, I'm going to continue this. And let's
to be run.
So this news sent shockwaves across the district.
Yeah, the News 4 I-Team's Ted Oberg has been looking into this. Ted, you've got some new information since last we spoke.
Yeah, Jim, and on a lot of stuff to unpack here. Let's start with the president's Truth Social post. He says crime in D.C. is totally out of control. Statistics from MPD, D.C. police say violent crime here in the district this year down 26%. He said minors know that nothing will happen to them. Also, sort of questionable, 85% of juveniles accused of a crime last year were prosecuted by the D.C. Attorney General's office. What we know about this incident the president was talking about, a Doge staffer who Elon Musk, according to a post he said put on X just a short time ago, said was trying to defend a woman from who was being assaulted by a group of about a dozen young men. A Doge team member saw what was happening, ran to.
So this is the young man that was a part of Doge that was trying to help a woman that was being attacked by a mob of teenagers as young as 14 and up. And look how brutally they beat this young man. You don't think the president gonna do something about that? And this down the street from the White House? You know what I mean? Like I said in the beginning, the nation's capital should reflect the best of that nation. This ain't that, bro. You can't run around doing nothing like this and think it ain't no consequences. This is a government official. And you got 14-year-olds running around Washington, D.C., down the street from the White House, committing heinous crimes like this. They could have killed this they could have unalived this young man.
And to defend her. And there you see is the picture of what Elon Musk and President Trump allege happened to that young man. We know this is about 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, just a couple days ago. DC Fire did go out there. They did not transport that young man with any injuries that needed to be treated at a hospital. Elon Musk saying he had symptoms of a concussion, but again, not taken to the hospital. According to sources familiar, we know that 2 juveniles from Maryland have been placed in custody of the DC Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services for assault and attempted carjacking charges. Again, 2 juvenile suspects now in the custody of DC authorities. And the case will be handled not by Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. attorney for D.C., but by the D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab, who sent us a statement a short time ago, which partly says no one who lives, works, or visits D.C. should experience this. It's horrific and disturbing. When MPD brings us cases with sufficient evidence of juveniles who have broken the law and hurt people, we will prosecute them and ensure they face consequences for their actions. Statistics put up by their office sort of prove that most recently. One other note, Jeanine Pirro was recently, just a couple minutes ago, at a National Night Out event for DC Police. And she told the crowd there, which, by the way, had heckled her previous to this, that crime is going down in DC, thanks to parents, the community, and DC Police.
Well, I can't tell. And I rock with Judge Jeanine. And I just don't think that crime is being reported like it should be. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that, and this is what I heard, you know, that they have redefined what they consider crime. Like if it's not reported a certain way, if it's not a phone call made to or something, or if it didn't result in a certain type of if it didn't fit some type of criteria, they have changed what they consider a crime. So a lot of this stuff does not get reported. That's why the statistics are showing that crime is down. Not that crime is happening at any less of a rate. It's just not being reported. So we gotta be clear on that. A lot of this stuff that goes on, for example, the LA riots, right? When you look at the LA riots, they were vandalizing property, breaking into, stealing stuff, but none of that stuff is being reported as criminal activity. But back in the day, when they had LA riots, it would be reported as criminal activity. They redefine, what is a crime nowadays, what they report as criminal activity. So that's why a lot of this stuff, they talk about, oh yeah, the crime is down, the crime is down. Nah, it just ain't being reported. We living in a very volatile society these days. And it's not no situation where crime is going down, you know what I'm saying? It's just that it's not being reported accurately because they changed it up. But be that as it may, Donald Trump deployed the National Guard, like he said. Now, he gave a warning, and D.C. said, hey, get it together, the mayor, whatever, or we're going to have to federalize Washington, D.C. and get it together ourselves. And he made it happen. Let's get to it.
So we watched it together. President Trump wrapping up a lengthy news conference declaring today Liberation Day in our nation's capital. And he promises to aggressively crack down on crime and clean up what he calls our once beautiful capital. The White House says these efforts are in line with an executive order the president signed in March to make D.C. safer. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-host Emily Compagno. Also joining us today, Carly Shimkus, co-host of Fox and Friends First, Lisa Booth, Fox News political analyst, and John Yoo, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General, UC Berkeley law professor, and former Justice Thomas law clerk. Well, here is the president moments ago.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. Today, we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department. In addition, deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. You want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now.
Look, the president really leaned hard on the big picture because it's not just about Washington, D.C. It's about soft on crime policies across America. For example, he's going after no cash bail laws, and he's really hammering down on liberal prosecutors in Democratic-led cities like New York and Chicago.
We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. And we have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete
John Yoo, that sounds like a shot across the back.
All right, so that's buffering right there. So I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna stop that because it's some content in there that I want to get to. But I'm gonna let that pause right quick and we'll come back to that. But as you can see, hey, it's valid. His reasoning for what he's doing is valid. And I'm just having a hard time digesting the ages of these assailants being so young, but when you think about it, Donald Trump have put ceasefires on so many different nations across the globe. I mean, the Congo and Rwanda, Armenia, Israel and Iran. You don't think he gonna do what he can do to create peace here in America? You know what I'm saying? This man is about no drama. You know what I'm saying? All peace. So yeah, he definitely gonna go out his way to make sure the streets of America are as safe as can be. And then you got a lot of other different elements out here, with illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities creating an atmosphere where these people commit crimes that are illegal immigrants. But in the sanctuary city, the police can only hold them for so long before they have to release them back to society. So we got that going on. And then we already got a criminality situation within, our communities where people are being brutalized. Now, to me, they mention Chicago, they mention other states. I'm not out here committing no crimes, you know what I'm saying? People that I know, they just living their life. If they ain't out here committing no heinous crimes. So I don't care about the National Guard coming to where I'm at. Do y'all do what y'all do? I don't see why people would have a problem with it if you ain't out here trying to harm innocent people. Who cares? Let 12 do their job. You know what I'm saying? Why y'all mad about the National Guard coming to make your streets safer? You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem with that, especially if you have children in these cities. You should be encouraging that from my perspective, But I want to try to bring this back up so we can get to some more of what was said here in this video. Let me see if it's done buffering.
We are not going to lose our cities over this. This is more than just a shout out to the criminals. This is those blue lead cities and the way that they're doing business legally.
It's a good point, Harris. Look, the president can't do a lot about crime in the inner cities in places like Oakland, where I work, or San Francisco, where I'm from, or Philadelphia, where I grew up. These are places where crime has gone out of control. But the one place that the president can put law and order into effect is Washington, D.C. Our founders made the District of Columbia a federal city. They didn't want it under the control of Virginia or Maryland or any other state. It is uniquely the duty and responsibility of the president to enforce the laws, and those laws include the criminal laws for public safety in Washington, D.C. Now, he doesn't just need to nationalize the D.C. police and declare an emergency, which can go on for 30 days. He can send in federal law enforcement, which he's done. He can send in the National Guard. There's no governor to fight with, like the governor of California, to send the National Guard in. They're not limited to being there for.
Wow, so that's important to note. Washington, D.C. is already federalized, so he doesn't have to go up against a governor. Because, see, a governor could be a pain in the ass if they not in alignment with the president, because a governor is pretty much the president of that state. And I didn't realize until really covering this stuff that how much power a governor has. Just like with Governor Newsom in California. They could really go up against the president and say, oh, no, we're not going to help the federal government against illegal immigration. We're a sanctuary state, so therefore we don't have to comply. And they can actually go up against and don't have to help ICE. Now, they can't stop what the president doing, but they're not obligated to aid and assist. Actually, they can kind of divert against the president. That's dangerous. So with Washington, D.C., like he said, he doesn't have that element. Ain't no governor to go back and forth with. Man, this is what it is. So that's why he went on ahead, and I'm happy that he clarified that.
there for 30 days. It's going to take time, but I think the president can use DC to produce good policies and demonstrate to the rest of the country how to turn around their crime-ridden inner cities.
So real quickly, so what we heard the president do today is he put the DC police under the AG Pam Bondi's control after announcing that the people from the feds will be in charge. That's what you're talking about.
Yes. Under the Home Rule Act of 1973, the president can take over the DC police, but that doesn't apply to the other law enforcement assets Paul was just talking about in your last show, the DEA, the FBI, and then, of course, the National Guard. Now, look, if you had to ask me, I think this whole home rule thing has been a mistake and a constitutional error, because I don't think it was a good idea for the federal government to ever give D.C. self-government. That was not what the founders intended. They wanted the federal government to always remain in control of the District of Columbia. So we're seeing 50 years now of misrule, misgovernment. The murder rate in D.C. has historically always been higher than in other cities in the country.
That's fascinating, Emily, because we're actually technically watching the rates of crime fall across the country. But in certain areas, it's the pure violence of the crime that's popping right now as an outbreak, coupled with people living on the streets and encampments in many of those blue-led cities.
Right. And if D.C. was a state, it would be the highest homicide rate per capita 4 years running. It's been, frankly, an abominable destruction of what could have been a very peaceful and, I think, example of how government should run. I think what I love about this, and I say it with a caveat that this is the first step, there was an excellent articulation today of exactly why this perfect storm has been created. And we saw firsthand as a White House press corps member talked about how he had been robbed at gunpoint by a child and nothing happened. The trauma and the stress are real, and there are lives we cannot get back, including that of a White House intern whose mother to this day says, please, President Trump, do something, right? So here we're seeing that. So we saw the articulation of why things have gotten to this point, and that's the failure of policies, the reclassification of crimes, activists, judges, feckless prosecutors alike. We know it, right? We talk about it all the time. So here we are seeing the president come in and do something, and then during this time, will set things right. But it's now up, I believe, to Congress and these cities to take this next step. Because the worst thing ever would be once this president leaves and then all the sand just goes.
I want to buy your house. I can pay you cash for your house no matter what condition it's in. If you need to sell,
goes back into the hole and it restores back to normal. So we need to set this precedent and then have it remain. So all these other blue cities that people have given up on have a fighting chance too.
Well, and the president said he's not going to give up. He said, we're not going to lose control. So all those cities had better wake up because he's serious about this. Look, I don't want to put our team in our control room too much in hot water here, but do you guys have from the U.S. Attorney of D.C., Jeanine Pirro, talking about the kids, if you will? Because coming out of what Emily said, I think, all right, let's watch this.
I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on now. Wait a minute, man. Wait. Bring that back. Did you just hear what she just said? We had to pause for the cause, man. She said a kid, 14, 15, 16 years old, on a bus or a train, I believe she said, with an illegal weapon, shoot somebody in the chest. Luckily, the person survived. She prosecutes, and they only give them probation. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. This something has to be done. If the local government ain't gonna handle situations like that, because that could have been anybody that just got shot in the chest, and you wonder why these kids don't have no problem coming out here. Hey man, shoot, Lil Ray just shot somebody in the chest and got probation. Shoot, I'm just trying to go on here and stick a few people up. So I'm 15, 16 years old. They just gonna give me a slap on the wrist if I get caught. Why not? That's the message that you sending. You gotta make an example out of these kids, man, or they gonna continue to do this. It's insane, bro. And they wonder why the president is sitting up here talking about sending in the National Guard. It's ridiculous. I want to bring this back a little bit. I love Judge Deneen. You know what I'm saying? She's so raw. She keep it a bean. Judge Janine, keep it a bean.
I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest. Intent to kill? I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college.
Wow.
We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept.
Lisa.
Well, look, this is brilliant, especially that show of force that we just saw during this press conference, this Liberation Day for Washington, D.C. Look, the Democrat Party has become the party of crime and disorder, and the Republican Party is the party of law and order. And what President Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. will underscore this point, because just like how he was able to bring, we saw record highs of border crossings under Joe Biden and then record lows under President Trump in short order. That's what we're going to see in Washington, D.C. And we saw under the Obama administration where he appended the criminal justice system, where somehow it was racist to arrest criminals, which ended up putting minority communities even more at risk. And then what we saw under Joe Biden with open borders as well, just this lawlessness in the Democrat Party. So he's going to.
Now, she just broke it down. And I recently had to understand there is a huge difference in the Democrats and the Republican Party just by what she just said. Under Joe Biden, the border was wide open, 20 million, illegal immigrants flooding it. And I'm going to say not just so much Republicans, I'm going to say MAGA versus Democrats, because Republicans, you got some of them that's iffy. But you see the difference in the border? There was over 20 million people, I believe, that came over here illegally the past 4 years, just every day. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people coming over. Trump, meanwhile, the big difference, zero. They haven't had now, in 3-4 months, they haven't had now one person come over the southern border. They locked it all the way down. That's a huge difference, in policy. See, we don't deal with identity politics once we, mature in our political awareness. We strictly look at policy. All that other stuff they try to use to tie you in emotionally. Once you get over that emotionalism that they try to play on with race, with gender, with your choice of sexuality, all that type of stuff. Once you get out of that, look past all that and boil down to policy, it's a huge difference in what's going on right now than what was going on the past 4 years. And that's due to difference of policy. And I agree with Trump's policies. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump do and say, but 95% of what he got going on, I'm in favor of, at least.
He's going to underscore this point and put these mayors in these blue cities on notice, because why won't they protect their citizens when they can? It's not an issue of being able to, it's an issue that they don't want to. And then also, I'll just go through, there's been a long list of members of Congress, staffers, and the intern that was also murdered that have been attacked. You had Henry Cuellar was carjacked at gunpoint, member of Congress. Congresswoman Angie Craig attacked in her apartment complex.
Now you hear all these people that's in Congress getting attacked in Washington, D.C. These Congress people.
Senator Rand Paul had a staffer that was stabbed as well. And then, of course, those two Israeli embassy staffers that were executed recently in Washington, D.C. I also will finally just note that even in 2023, we saw a bipartisan effort with Joe Biden to override a rewrite of Washington, D.C.'s criminal code that tried to do, softening on crime. So there has already been a demonstration of a bipartisan desire to get this under control.
As far as the longevity.
Okay, so we could leave that right there. The commercial couldn't have been more on time, because I want to chop it up about what she just said, and that was excellent. She cooked. All of them did. But when you really think about it, the audacity of these kids that are committing these crimes, they not scared to run up on Congress people. So you can imagine what they running up on the average citizen in their community. If they running up on people in Congress like this. She just ran through a laundry list of Congress people that have been harmed over there in Washington, D.C. And you don't think the government, a real president, a real commander-in-chief is not going to do something about that? You thought the Trump administration was going to sit back idly and let this continue to go on? Nah, you ain't got that type of president in office. You know what I'm saying? And, what's interesting is people's reaction to it. Everybody got their viewpoint of what the president is doing. And mine, I think that, hey, them people out here getting crazy, you got to make an example out of them, because innocent people being harmed, never for that. You know what I'm saying? But you got mixed feelings in the streets right now. You got some that's for what Trump's doing, and you got some that's salty. So we're going to get into some of the reaction from the people in D.C. So a lot of people out here protesting, and I'll let you know how people love to protest. Let's see what's going on over here in D.C., man.
Which continues now as we continue to look at how the people of D.C. are responding to today's big developments from the White House.
That's right. News 4's Amy Cho is live in DuPont Circle tonight. So, Amy, we know demonstrators are gathering there tonight, but not everyone is against this move. Tell us about the people who are actually supporting this change.
Yeah, Sean, that's right. We've heard a variety of reactions today to the announcement from the White House. Some people expressing anger, but others expressing happiness and saying they were frustrated with crime. As far as the situation we are at right now, this is a protest against the Trump administration that just got underway a few minutes ago here at DuPont Circle. You could hear those chants from protesters saying Trump must go now and holding up signs that say the same. This is the second such protest we've seen today, with folks saying they do not want the federal government to take over the DC Police Department. But again,
I'm trying to understand what these people protesting for, bro. Like, after everything we just saw, don't these people just seem crazy to you? After you know what I'm saying? You just sitting there just thinking like he trying to make y'all streets safer. Like y'all got violent teenagers just running around with a license to unalive. That they don't have no accountability because they kids. And y'all not in favor of this stuff stopping? People, how many innocent people have to be victimized or unalive before y'all be like, something need to be done? Y'all out here protesting basically to be like, leave our criminals alone. We got homeless people laying everywhere in the nation's capital, and we want to keep it the way it is. We don't want no help from the federal government. These people are insane, because It's a no-brainer that something has to be done. How often do these people get harmed down the street from the White House?
Other district residents have told us they are happy with what's going on, saying they're fed up with feeling unsafe in their home city, and they welcome the Trump administration taking over DC police.
DC united, we'll never be defeated.
Calls for solidarity as some district residents protest the Trump administration's takeover of DC police.
But he isn't interested in actually helping people. He would rather demonize homeless DC residents to score cheap political points and stoke division.
We will not stand here and allow authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
I want everybody to go talk to your neighbors. I want everybody to put out DC flags. I want you to put out Free DC banners. I want you to put out the Free DC logo.
But other district residents say they're happy with the president's announcement.
And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control.
I'm just ecstatic. I've been saying that a long time ago. The federal government should take over the D.C. Police Department.
Leroy Thorpe is a native Washingtonian who founded the volunteer group Citizen Organized Patrol Efforts, also known as the Red Hats. They walk the streets of Chinatown doing violence prevention work.
With the mayor being in power so long, I think she's kind of used to how things are going, and I think Donald Trump really wants to clean it up, and I'm all for it.
During this morning's
Now, see, them people, they on the ground. They got boots on the ground, so they see firsthand what's going on in D.C. They like, man, yeah, you know, we need some help out here to they trying to keep the streets. They taking it upon themselves to try to keep their streets safe on their own. That speaks volumes, man, of what's going on. And then, you know, you got a president that come out and say, yeah, I'm finna roll this out here, and we gonna send in the National Guard to get this under control. And make no mistake, people gonna think twice. You know, them people that's doing these crimes and victimizing innocent people gonna think twice before they come outside the door on that nonsense. Hey, you see federal agents outside and they ain't playing. Yeah, just their presence alone might get a lot of this stuff in order. I'm just saying.
His White House press briefing, Attorney General Pam Bondi spoke about one high-profile murder in the district from 2023. That was the case of Reggie Brown, an elderly man with cancer who was beaten and killed on Georgia Avenue by 5 teenage girls, ages 12 to 15. Social media.
What? Hold fast, man. A group of girls from 12 to 15 done unalive this man, a homeless man. I'm just saying, you can't make this stuff up, man. These kids is 5 girls unalive the homeless man from ages 12 to 15. You can't make this stuff up. At what point do something got to change, man?
2023. That was the case of Reggie Brown, an elderly man with cancer who was beaten and killed on Georgia Avenue by 5 teenage girls, ages 12 to 15. Social media messages revealed in court indicated they did it because they were bored.
No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital.
They did it because they was bored. They took this elderly man's life because they were bored. You see the seriousness in this? And you got people that literally act like Trump doing something wrong, man. Protesting against the man. I wonder what they got, what kind of sentence they got. Did they get probation too? This is little girls. I have a son older than these kids.
No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that.
Brown's sister Nazia tells News 4 she was glad to see her brother's case got the Trump administration's attention.
I was very happy to hear that. Very happy. He's trying to make a change. He's trying to do something about it and make the city safer.
Nazia says she wants to see harsher punishments for juveniles who commit murder. Right now, they can only be held until they turn 21.
However, she does not like the idea of the National Guard being called in and worries about police brutality.
I'm definitely 100% against that. The National Guard is on a whole nother level.
It comes as the Trump administration has already stepped up law enforcement here in the city, with 450 federal agents patrolling the streets over the weekend.
Protesters here was telling me they plan to be out here for several hours this evening. Now, as far as the increased federal law enforcement presence here in the district, the White House was saying
Trump must go signs. Man, what happened to just, hey, we bored. Let's just go walk. Let's get our mama to, you know, when we was that age, we'd catch the bus or have one of our mamas drop us off at the mall. We'd just go window shopping. You know what I'm saying? We ain't even have to have no money. You know, we'd get out the house, get on the bus, go to Evergreen Plaza. They call it Ever Black, or Forest City Mall, or, you know, walk around the mall, you know what I'm saying? Go grab the latest CD or something. We didn't go outside and beat no elderly man until he was unalive for fun. It's at some point we have to recognize that there is a problem in our communities that needs to be addressed. When you have young girls, 12 years old to 15 years old, they come together to do something like this. And this has been going on, as you can see, for a nice little minute right now. This is insane. I'm shocked and appalled at this, man. That this been going on this long, and these people protesting against Trump. This is not only saving these people lives that are being, you know, victimized, it's saving these kids that need to be doing something else with their time. Because I swear, hey, I don't care how old you is, you run up on me wrong. If you jump out the whip out at me wrong, that might be the last time you jump anywhere. And I ain't trying to be out here, you know, with that on my conscience. But it's survival of the fittest first. Get your kids in order. They need to charge some of these adults, some of these parents. Because ain't nobody going to let you victimize them. I don't care, man, woman, nor child.
saying those federal agents made several arrests this past weekend for charges like carrying a pistol without a license, driving on a suspended license, and riding a dirt bike. This comes as DC police data shows violent crime is down 26% in the district this year. Guys.
Amy Cho, thanks.
All right, man. Y'all, man, this right here is a common sense situation. Common sense situation, bro. Yeah, sending the National Guard. Sending all of them. Man, shake them streets up, bro. What you talking about? It's a no-brainer. And like I said, if these kids have been so emboldened that they are running up on people in Congress, they know they don't have no repercussions for their action. They know they can go do whatever and just get a slap on the wrist. How sick has society become? Well, our children, 12 to 15 years old, committing heinous crimes like this. And nobody sees a problem with it but Donald Trump. Really? Hey, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate y'all, man, for checking me out. It's your boy, Jay Taylor. Voices for the Voiceless. We love y'all. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Peace and blessings.